What's up, guys? My name is Riley. Today I'm going to start somewhat of a passion project for me, something that I've always wanted to do and never really sat down to take the time because of life or career or any other excuse that you can put in there. But today I'm just going to kind of take the leap and I'm just going to make a video and I'm going to get started. And so this passion project for me is to do videos on leadership in coaching, whether it's football coaching, basketball coaching, leadership when it comes to running with people, whether you're working with kids or adults, just an overall leadership talk. I'm not going to do anything that I'm going to really say that is original or anything, just to kind of talk about things that I've learned, things that I've read, things that I've studied, and things that I've observed throughout my career. As, my background's coaching college football and high school football. Leadership now as a young dad, as I have two really young sons, one who's going to be 2 next month, and then one who's going to be 3 months next month. Leadership in things of marriage and what I've learned through being together with my wife for almost 8 years now. And so this is going to be something that I've always wanted to do, and something that I really want to sit down and commit to doing. And really, it's going to be talking about things that either I hear or things that I've read, and those things will be, I'll just kind of talk about them and talk about leadership in general because it's a passion. It's something that I love. It's something I feel like every time I go to buy a new book or every time I want to sit down to read or listen to a podcast, I always seem to gravitate towards leadership podcasts, leadership books, leadership classes and courses. And so it's just something that I really wanted to do. And I think that starting this year is something that I wanted to dive into. I love the idea of just kind of talking about it. I love the dialogue about it. I love to sit and listen to other people's ideas about it. And so that's kind of what I want to start this platform to be for me, is just a way to kind of talk about leadership, to talk about the things that I hear and things that I think are really interesting and really cool. So that's, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully maybe you get something out of it, maybe not. If you have an idea or have thoughts on it, I'd love to, continue to dialogue about it. As I kind of start this presence, I don't know, just a YouTube channel about it, whether people want to leave comments or, whether I post this and if I post this on Twitter and leave comments about it, it'd be awesome. So really, I just kind of wanted to dive in and just kind of get started, because if I feel like I don't dive in and I don't get started, then I'll probably never do it. But, one of the things that I really, that's kind of hit to me lately is, the end of the college football season and the NFL playoffs. And I think there's a lot of really cool things in sports that you get to see when kind of you get into that crunch time, the end of the season. And one of the things that I've really kind of taken is like those small authentic relationships that I've seen from leaders and coaches to players, from players to players, and then, just from coaches to coaches. I think this is a really critical thing is these real and authentic relationships. Ones that, a lot of times we just take for granted because we're working with people, but we don't really take the relationship part really, really seriously. Especially, I think, when it comes, a lot of people, you talk from boss down, what kind of relationships are we building? What kind of things do we know about each other? What kind of things do we really care for each other about? I had my opportunity in my profession in football to be a coordinator for the first time and actually have a staff and actually be a part of being kind of the leader of that side of the ball. And one of the things that I really loved is I loved getting to know the guys on my staff. I love knowing what they love. I like knowing what they like. I like knowing that our offensive line coach loves to play his guitar. Our wingbacks coach, fullbacks coach, he's really good at disc golf. Like those kind of things are really fun. And I think getting to know people and getting to know their passions and who they are allows you to connect, it allows you to teach, and it allows you to get on the same page. Because if we're too busy or we disregard that stuff, it really can affect the way that there's communication going on. And the communication is the key, right? Like if we're in a leadership role, we have to have the ability to communicate, and then that communication be received. But I do think that there's a block if we don't have these authentic relationships that are built between the people that we're doing it with. Feedback is really hard. Telling somebody that you disagree with an idea is really hard. And a lot of that comes with a lot of personal and emotional ties that we may not understand at the time that we're giving it. And so being able to have that authentic relationship, you build a foundation of where you're wanting to go and how you can then progress. You know, building that foundation and understanding and making people feel heard and making people feel seen and alike, and that people are important, comes through relationships. You can't do any of that unless you have those relationships. And you know, like I think the difference though between building an authentic relationship with those that you're around and work with and kind of mentor and leader and become a leader of, the difference between an authentic relationship and just a friendship is like, you may not hang out with those people all the time. Like, they don't need to be your best friends, but you need to know and care about them and care about what they care about. And understand that, like, well, this person, you know, he's got a lot of experience, he or she's got a lot of experience in this area. And so, you know, like, they really care about their stuff being heard. You know, they don't want everything that they've ever learned in their 25 plus years to be thrown to the wayside and said, like, making you feel like that's not important. You know, so you got to, like, somebody like that, you have to build that authentic relationship so they know that their ideas and what they've learned and the things that have been successful for them, they matter, even if you may not do them going forward. You know, I think of this past season experience that I had with an assistant coach is, you know, like I was coming into a system that I had never run, and I was kind of learning it on the fly, and I was learning a lot of really cool stuff, and I had a lot of really cool ideas. And I bring my own stuff into it. Well, then I had an assistant who had been doing it for a really long time. His way has been successful. He learned it from somebody who had been successful, and they've won a lot of football games in between. And so being able to make sure that, you know, he feels like the way that he's done it is important, and that we're going to do things, a lot of the things that he's done in that way because it's worked. But yet, I still want to be able to have my ideas and bring my ideas in and be able to kind of twist it and mold it into a way that I feel like I can then really feel comfortable with it within myself. So there has to be a blend. Like, I can't just bulldoze everything he's ever done, say this is the way we're going to do it. If I do that, then I'm going to crush and break a relationship with somebody that I'm going to work with on the daily, somebody that I really need, somebody that our kids and our program really needed. And so those things were really important to me as I navigated the off season, as I learned and I listened and I grew, you know, and as authentic relationship build, there became a point where I could give a new idea. He could rebuttal the idea and say, like, I've done it this way and that didn't really work. And I can receive that feedback. Then I can also tell him, like, hey, I appreciate that, but I really want to do it. I want to try it this way. And he could say, hey, okay, I've never done it that way, or I've done it differently, and I would recommend doing it this way, but I trust you because, you know, you've listened to me, you understood, we've done a lot of things, and now I'm going to trust you too. And we built this authentic relationship that can then drive the trust to move things forward. But that authentic relationship took time. It took intentionality. It took listening. It took asking intentional questions. It took for caring more than just the subject. And so those kind of things I think are really important. And sometimes what we do is we really take those for granted. We feel like we have to be best friends with people instead of feeling like, oh, I need to grow this authentic relationship in a professional way. And those authentic relationships can really, really grow and drive forward thinking. It can also drive the understanding and care for not only what you guys are trying to do together, but also what you guys are trying to do in the bigger picture. And I really think because of the authentic relationships that I had built within our staff, like, we were able to then spread that to our kids. And because of that, I think that our kids had a great experience because of the way that our staff had grown in authentic relationships. There was never any doubt from our staff with one another, right? Like, we could always, no matter if we weren't around, we trusted that our kids were going to get taught something. If it was taught something that was different that maybe we wanted to teach it, that there was never going to be an ill word said. There was never going to be a backpedal. It was going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, we need to adjust that. That's, like, no worries, and because of those things, it allowed us to drive and I think get the most out of what we wanted to get the most out of, especially during the season for us. And so I think some of the things that we do as we get caught up in the whirlwind of our day-to-day, sometimes when people who are in leadership roles, is we forget to stop, pause, and grow and build the relationships that are around us. We feel like maybe the to-do list is more important. The things that we need to get done are more important. And that somehow this idea of having a water cooler conversation or stopping at somebody's desk, I know that may be a little bit old school because now we're in a remote world, but heck, sending a text or a chat or an email that says like, hey, how the heck are you? To grow those relationships, to ask questions like, man, what do you like to do? Like what's something you really enjoy doing, or what's something what's a passion for you? Because when we stop caring about the people and who the people are, and we just care about the work and the results, they just can't mix, right? And guys like Nick Saban and guys who have been really successful, CEOs, Brené Brown and a lot of her leadership books, she talk about the inner scoreboard, or Brené Brown talks about the marble jar mentality. And so, for me, the marble jar mentality of every time that you create an authentic relationship and there's a connection through a conversation or something small that you do, a small gesture, a small ask, or even something as simple as walking by somebody and saying, oh, what's up, man? Is, you put a marble in the jar that builds trust and it builds foundation. And so the authentic relationships that we build with one another, of teams, of coaches, those authentic relationships build a foundation and movement for things that go forward. If people don't feel cared about, they won't care about what you're asking them to do. That in line, right? Like if we don't act and tell people like, hey, like I care about you before I care about what you do. If people don't feel that, then the motivation goes with that. And so I think that going forward, starting 2023, starting in this, I think one of the things that we have to do is people who are in leadership positions, I think we have to stop, pause, and say the relationships are more important than the results, because results come with relationships. Results come with those things by caring about things that matter for people that I'm asking. Because if you care, if people know you care, you can push a little bit more. You can ask a little bit more of. But if they know you don't care, then there's no motivation behind it, especially, I think I can think of myself, right now I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I coach high school football. Well, for me, everything's about relationships. Everything's about relationships with our kids. And everything's about relationships with our coaches, because of the fact that I'm not always in the building. I'm not always around our coaches and our kids. And so that motivation when I'm at home, and maybe the boys have had a little bit of a rough day, or maybe, I'm talking to my wife who's had a rough day at work or anything like that. Like the relationship drive the motivation for me to create time to do the things that I want to do. I love football. I've moved 4 times for it. I'm originally from Florida, and I played small college football in Georgia. I've coached in upstate New York. I've coached in upstate Minnesota. I've coached in Wisconsin. And so the subject of football and the idea of football moved me. But what made me stay, what made me love it, what made me love coaching, not necessarily was the material, because, there's always a million great scheme ideas. Like, this past year, I learned the triple option offense in the flex bone, and it's amazing, and I love it. But I grew up in the spread and the RPO, which I love, and I've learned a lot of pro stuff lately, and a lot of under center stuff, and all the scheme is great, and we can see it all on display all the time about how great scheme is, whether it's a 3-4 tight front, whether it's a 4-2-5, whether you're going to get in some sort of amoeba defense and guys are walking around, you got one guy down. all of that works and all of it can be successful, but really what makes it over the top, what makes it sustainable, what doesn't make it a flash in the pan, what makes your scheme even better is the culture you create within the relationships of the people. And those kind of things are what should set the foundation of what you're trying to do as a leader, as a coach, as a head coach, as a coordinator, as a leader of a team. And so, for me, I really, this first video, I wanted to kind of set the idea that like setting authentic relationships is the first and foremost important thing that you have to do as a leader. If you walk into your office every day and if you work in an office with a team and you bypass everybody to go to your office and you don't say hi to anybody, like we all have bad days. We all have days that we don't want to say hi to anybody. But the problem with that is, we are in a position where we can help dictate the temperature of the room. So by walking by somebody and not getting a marble jar, not getting a marble in the jar right when you walk in, by just walking by everybody and not saying hi, that can really affect the temperature of the rest of the day for our teams, for the people that we lead. When you walk into the weight room with your kids, one of the things that I have to battle the most is my personality is extremely sarcastic. Like I'm extremely sarcastic. I can joke and banter with the best of them. But when I walk into the weight room or I walk into our meeting room, like I want our kids to know that, hey, they're always going to get the same person. I am who I am, and I'm not going to be hot or cold. I'm always going to be me. I'm always going to bring a ton of energy, and I'm always going to be positive towards them. So like when I try to walk into a meeting in their weight room, I want to, instead of looking, and this is something that I have to consciously do, instead of looking for a sarcastic comment to make it a kid or a staff member, I want to look for something positive. Whether it's, hey man, those are really cool shoes, that's sweet, or hey man, I really like that shirt, or man, your hair is looking great today. Are those new glasses? Right? Like giving a compliment and setting the temperature of the room to be higher, to turn the dial up a little bit, like, oh wow, okay, thanks coach, or oh hey, thanks man, I appreciate that. Like turn that up a little bit to not start the interaction as something negative with a sarcastic comment. It's something that I have to work on, and it's something as a leader that I have to be conscious of, and it's something that I want to continue to be conscious of, so that I can set the temperature of the room, so that I can dictate the rest of the day, right? So then when I go and I say like, hey, I need more, he's not the first thing that kid or that coach doesn't think about is like, oh, the negative comment that I made. That's not lingering in his mind. The sarcasm isn't like, oh, okay, coach, yeah, whatever. Like he can lean on the positive impact and the relationship that we're building to say like, yeah, I'll give you a little bit more. I can do it. I know I can. Because he gets an uptick. And so building those authentic positive relationships, and here I added positive to it because I do think you can't have an authentic relationship that's negative, right? Like you have to have a positive, authentic relationship. Building those is so important, and it's the foundation of where you want to go. But I do think that the way you do that is not just necessarily through the home run ask, the home run question. So kind of the second part of the video is I wanted to talk about the fact that we build those authentic relationships through small moments. We talk, always I've heard that since I got into coaching, you win games, you win practice in small increments, in single plays, in single mistakes, there's not this one big moment that's like, woo, we scored 38 points in one play, right? Like I'm a huge Jacksonville Jaguar fan, which hasn't been great my whole life, most of my life. And the 90s were really good to us. But last night, they came back from 27 points down. They played awful in the first half. And they just had, at halftime, their head coach came in and he said, we just got to chip away at it. One small moment. But I think you have to apply, you would need to apply that not just to the games, not just to practice, but to how you build relationships. Like every comment, every look, everything is a small moment where you're either building or breaking. And to build authentic relationships, those moments have to be builds. If you're going to ask for more, if you're going to ask for extra, if you're going to ask for 110, you have to, in every small opportunity you get, to build. Because every time you tear down, every time you take, you can't get to 110. You're getting to 107. You're getting to 106. You're getting to 105. Right? And when we all ask for that 110 moment, we all ask for that grinded out moment. Are you building? Have you built enough small interactions that is going to allow you to ask for more? And that's one thing that for me, I'm challenging myself on this year, is I'm challenging myself on small interactions that make a difference. Small interactions that build and don't break. Small interactions that aren't sarcastic unless they're sarcastic and fun. Unless they're sarcastic and they build. Sarcastic towards myself and building somebody else up. And it's not that I'm trying to tear myself down, but I don't want to lead with a sarcastic comment that breaks. That's a challenge I have for myself. And so I think sometimes we take those moments and we're so quick to pull out I know I can think back to almost every coach I've ever had, right? Like that they can banter with the best of them. And most of the time their first comment was a sarcastic comment. And it kind of set the tone for me, like, okay, good to see you too. I guess you're gonna ask me to work really hard today, huh? And so I think what we have to continue to do a really good job of is we have to do a really good job of taking small moments and winning those small moments in relationships, whether it's with a staff member, whether it's with a coworker, whether it's with somebody you're mentoring or somebody you're coaching, somebody that is looking up to you. Are we taking those small interactions to build? Because that's where the sustainability comes. That's where you see results down the road, is when we build foundations. Because, it's so interesting. Sometimes we don't think we have a lot of power. Sometimes we just think we're walking through the weight room, or sometimes we just think we're just there to make sure that nobody gets hurt, right? The weight room where you just think you're just there because, well, they've asked me to be here. Like when you're there, it matters. When you're leading a meeting, it matters. When you're in the weight room with the kids, it matters. When you're in a staff meeting, it matters. When you're in a one-on-one and when you walk into the room, it matters. What matters is how you set the temperature through small interactions. Are you building or are you breaking? And I think, in my opinion, that those small interactions of building are what set not only the trajectory of where you want to go as a team, as a staff, as a corporation, but where you're going to get to and how fast you're going to get there. Because you can ask for more from people that know you care, that know the first thing that they can A, expect you to be the same person, and then B, that they know that they can come to you and there's going to be a foundation of trust, whether they have to tell you, like, that's not sustainable, I don't know if I can do that, or saying, like, yes, I can get that done. It's built on authentic relationships. It's built on a foundation of authentic relationships that is built through small moments and small interactions that are constantly happening. And we're either building in those moments or breaking. So those are just some thoughts that I had, starting the year out as I got, taking moments of listening and reading. And thanks for watching the video. This has been a lot of fun. I'm going to try to do a video every week. This first video is 25 minutes. I don't know if I'll do 25 minutes worth of video all the time, but I sure can talk, and I sure do like to talk. And this is a really fun subject for me. So, thanks a lot if you stopped by and watched the whole video. If you made it to this point, if you really liked it, please give a thumbs up or like it or retweet it. I'm really excited to kind of do this and get going. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.